This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to another virtual coffee with the Blue Coats. Today, our special guest is Dr. Bowles from the Writing Center. So Dr. Bowles, if you want to go ahead and take the floor and just kind of talk about what's different with the Writing Center, like what's going on and how like we're adapting to online.
Yeah, so COVID-19 definitely presented some challenges, but I think there were challenges we were really ready to meet because we already had an online infrastructure in place. So we've had online tutoring for about 2 years now, and it goes through our schedule at WC Online. And fortunately, at the beginning of the semester, I started getting a lot more pushy about getting the tutors trained online and kind of demanding it as part of your employment. I don't know why that instinct kicked in. Maybe I had a little precognition or spidey sense. So pretty much everyone but Miss Phyllis Wheeler and Miss Betty Latham were trained to do online. And so we basically just had to transition so that all appointments go through online. The WC Online platform is pretty helpful. Of course, you get the technology glitches on occasion. But one thing I do like is we have the ability to video cam and audio chat, and it also has text chat. So even if your other stuff isn't functioning, you still can get tutoring. Even if you can't see the tutor or hear the tutor, you can type back and forth kind of like an old-fashioned AOL Instant Messenger. And you can share your document in the middle of the screen, which is really nice too, because then you and the tutor can kind of both manipulate it, which is really interesting, and work through that. So we've actually done really well. We saw a slight dip in usage, but we kind of came right back to our same levels of usage within a week or two. So that was really impressive too. So students seem to be using us. If you're not using us, we're here, we're available, and definitely able to help.
I know that we have a few questions. So Carla's been making calls to students, and she said one of the biggest things is that students don't know how to make an appointment online for the Writing Center. Do you think you can show us real quick about how students can do that?
Yeah, that'd be no problem. Am I sharing my screen at all, or again, not used to GoToMeeting?
Yes,
yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. So we go up here to University Writing Center. Basically, it's pretty easy. Once you have your registration and login, so if you've never been here, and we'll just refresh to that here. If you've never been here, you just go register for an account. There's a form for you to fill out, fill it all out, hit save, and you'll be good to go. Once you have your login information, you just log in. And pretty much it's easy because we don't have a face-to-face option right now. All you have to do is sign up for an appointment as normal, and it will be online. Now I'm going to freak, I think, Dawn out real quick here. There we go. And I'll just register with her real quick. Yeah, listen to me. Test, test, test. So once you fill out your form, kind of like you would for a normal face-to-face appointment, you just go ahead and create it. And then when you go back to click on, all you have to do is hit start a joint consultation. And then you go right into your basic video chat. And okay, my camera and microphone is starting a little bit of an issue, but I'll play with that in a sec. So it's pretty simple to do that. You probably won't have that same issue once you get in. You'll be good to go. We also have a video on Canvas that will walk you through how to do that as well. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, Garrett's here.
Garrett's here. Awesome. But yeah, if you go to our Canvas community, there's a video that shows you how to make all appointments and everything like that in the Canvas community.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I had to make an appointment earlier in the semester, but it was after quarantine hit for my term paper, and our teacher was like, you guys have to provide proof that you guys made an appointment.
That's nice. It's Dr. Pham?
Yes.
Yes, I know my requirements.
I haven't really had any requireds, but I enjoy going to the writing center. I feel a little biased now,
Mm.
but
You better
I
be.
really like it. It always makes me feel better about like what I'm writing. So I really enjoy that. Like I just need like affirmation with a lot of my papers. Because sometimes like depending on the subject, I just like lack confidence in what I'm writing. So it's nice to like have like my peers being able to like lean on and like bounce ideas off of and kind of give me advice moving forward too. And Dawn's really great at that. I really enjoy working with Dawn. So
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
My question to you, Dr. Bowles, is that program that Kirsten and Krishan are doing, the class and all that, is that something you offer every semester?
No, that's offered once a year. I've moved it to the spring. It was originally in the fall, but I had kind of I had too many tutors for a little while, so I backed it up. But it's every spring, and that is the ENGL 4390 Writing Center Pedagogy class. That is the class that you have to take if you want to be a tutor. So we're actually unique in the area. We have one of the most extensive training programs. I know that from just a lot of my colleagues in the area. And so you have to go through the whole semester long thing. So you do the 16-week class. The last 8 weeks you do an internship. In a normal non-COVID-19 world, the internship is actually physically in the University Writing Center. This time around, and you work with real students. This time around, because they had to adapt to being online, we had them working with veteran tutors and tutoring each other to get that practice. The class is really good. You can always contact me if you want to be a part of it. I will say that I do tend to look for faculty recommendations for it, just because it's very important for me to kind of have the tutors vetted. Mostly everybody who goes through the class makes it to being an employee in the UWC, but every once in a while you will get ones who struggle, and most of the time I found that's it. They didn't have the faculty recommendation. So year two that are in this semester, consider the long line of blue coats who were tutors. I think Year 3 and 4 now. We had Leighton and Julius. I'm trying to remember if we had anybody else from the blue coats. So yeah, the blue coats tend to all become tutors. Any blue coats want to become tutors? I'm going to poach you from Carla. I'm sure she'll be very happy with me.
Awesome. And any you don't have to be like an English major or anything. Any majors are accepted?
No, Kristen and Krishan are not English majors, and that's actually something I'm very happy about. I try to actually recruit across a broad swath, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, I like the diversity in the Writing Center. It really helps that they know about different things. And two, like, I don't want everybody thinking it's a place for English majors. It's a place for everyone, and English majors aren't always your best writers. You know, I want those people who can write the different methods, use APA style, write their social sciences. So these two kind of really excel when they have to do APA and be real clear cut and to the point, which really works well for them. So no, it's open to pretty much anybody. And like this semester, we even have an engineering major. So I got my first engineering major in there. So I try to actually get them from all disciplines. Now I do tend to get a little more English majors because they tend to be more interested, and because I recruit for my own classes. So if I'm teaching a class, it can be, you know, a Writing Center tutor, it'll work out well.
Very cool.
Honestly, I feel like if I have a lot of free time, I might as well, because I'm a bio major. And I remember like when I was getting my term paper research, like there wasn't really one that could like that was like well versed in scientific papers like specifically. So I was like, hey, might as well. I don't know. But I mean, they were still very, very helpful in like helping me with like phrasing, introductions, structure, stuff like that.
Yeah,
there's no matter like the discipline.
Yeah, that's actually a long debate in Writing Center studies. It's never fully been resolved. It kind of went away a couple years ago, but whether you need to have tutors that are specialized or not, I tend not to agree with that as much. I tend to be more fond of the general tutor, because sometimes the specialized tutor just starts telling students what to do, and that's really not productive learning. They're just like, oh, put this here, put that there. We're really trying to be a practice audience for your writing. That's a big thing we try to emphasize, you know, just to see how it's playing out to somebody. And you definitely can learn a lot from somebody who's not in your discipline. Sometimes that's more helpful, especially if you're a bio person. You can start talking in a language that doesn't make sense to the general public. And sometimes that person outside the discipline being like, what's that term? what does that mean? You know, it makes you stop and think like, ooh, the people who are going to read this know what that term is.
That's true.
Yeah. I even see that sometimes like with academic writing. I make that mistake sometimes in journals. You know, it depends if you're writing for a journal that's really particular to your conversation. You can cite sources like everybody knows it, right? Like I don't need to explain what this guy did in his research. Everybody's read Straub and Lunsford. But if you're writing for another journal, it's more for a general audience, and you're like, oh yeah, they might not know who these people are in my little niche area. I need to explain this research a lot more in depth. So it's definitely like even when you're in a discipline, you have to start thinking about audience differently across journals, across conferences, things like that.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend the class too. I've definitely learned a lot. Like we kind of like for our discussion board this week, kind of like 3 main things that we really learned, and like it's really helped me, especially like as a student too, like be okay with not knowing something, especially in like since we only have like upper level courses. I always felt like if I didn't know something that I was like lacking compared to like the rest of my peers, but this class has like really helped me develop like a deeper understanding, and that's okay like to not know, and that there's like people out there to help you know. So definitely recommend the class, but yeah, it definitely pushes you too, which I really liked. I like definitely out of my comfort zone because I don't think I've taken any advanced like English courses. So yeah.
Yeah, that class is one of my favorites to teach. So I guess a few comments here. One would be, I don't know if I ever gave this metaphor to you guys, but I will admit to anybody who wants to take it, I do kind of do it like a little bit like special forces training, where I try to make it a little hard. So if you quit, then I know you wouldn't have been a good tutor anyway. I know it sounds really devious, but I am trying to see that you have the stick-to-itiveness, that you can deal with hard, complex material, and you're willing to go on. One of the things I think you'd be really fascinated with, Kirsten, and this has happened to a lot of the tutors, is how much you'll improve as a writer by being a tutor. And that's really something that doesn't get talked about as much in writing studies as it should be. But I know Dawn Spradley had that comment from multiple of her professors when she started with us. You know, after about a year, they're like, and they came up and told me, they're like, Dawn is such a better writer now that she's a writing center tutor. I'm like, yeah, well, all she does is spend like 5 hours a day talking about writing and looking at other people's writing and seeing other ways of doing things. Like after a while, if you give that much feedback, you start seeing other ways to do it yourself. You're like, oh, man, look at the way this person structures an abstract. I could copy that, you know. Really, at its core, writing is kind of, you know, not original as much as, you know, using what other people do and reassembling it for your own needs. And so it's really neat to be able to just always be seeing what other people are doing.
I was going through the Writing Center website yesterday because I like to do my research before my guests come on, and I noticed you guys have a thing called the Lookout. What is that?
We're attached to the Lookout is attached to us on the website. They're not part of us.
Oh, okay.
We do. There's a good collaboration there. So the Lookout is run by Professor Ryan Bayless. If none of you have ever had him, he's one of the best on campus. He's just earth-shatteringly good creative writing teacher. Very, very talented poet himself too. And so the Lookout is a literary journal he publishes every year with TMA UCT students. And so it's just a student lookout journal that, you know, pretty much a literary magazine for them. We have the connection, and he gets me a poster every year. So he teaches online now, but even when he was here, I get a poster from the Lookout every year, and we've built kind of a wall of 6 of them. This will be the 7th. So we have every Lookout poster since it originated in the Writing Center, which is pretty cool. I always joked with them, I want to be like, you know, when we're retiring or something like that, you know, 30 years from now, there's going to be Lookout posters all over the Writing Center. But it's really cool. I really can't talk about Brian Bellis enough. He's amazing. The fact that he published that, the most recent issue just came out. He published it during COVID-19. Like that's really a victory and something that needs to be celebrated more on campus probably than it is.
And that's the thing, it's 56 pages and it's beautiful. I mean, just reading the poetry and all that, I didn't even know we had it until, like I said yesterday when I was checking that out. So I would love for, you know, more students to know about it, especially when sometimes, you know, you're trying to find something nice to read. And it's really, I definitely encourage you guys to go check it out. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, no, Ryan does an amazing job with it every year. It's really neat. It's unfortunate we didn't get the reading every year. He usually does a reading for it too. And so pretty much anybody can come and read their poetry from the Lookout. And sometimes people just read poetry they wrote that day. We've had that happen a couple times too, where people just come and be like, I want to read poetry too. I just wrote this today. It came to my head, and they read their poetry. So I respect those people. I have never been much of a creative writer. I'm very, very much a nonfiction person. So they're like, read poetry, and I'm like, yeah, I couldn't do that. That's just like, mine would be pathetic. Like, but it's definitely a neat event, and definitely cool to see the arts thrive at A&M.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Bowles, Mr. Krishan? He's our question man.
I love that
He
there's
really
two
is.
Krishans.
Which Krishan?
Garrett pointed it out.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask like,
Oh my goodness.
I was gonna ask like when I was doing my more practice, more problem essay, like one of the things that like I ran across was like a language hierarchy and like how like for me, because I was doing mine over Ebonics, and like how African American vernacular English is like inferior to like academic language, and I just want to know like where that comes from and like why that's like a common perception.
Okay. So I'm going to caveat this, or preface it at least, with the fact that Amber Denaya would definitely suggest more to speak to this history than I should, with her background in linguistics. He has a little more there for me. I can't speak, though, that African American vernacular English, I know it more from the rhetorical end than the linguistic end. It definitely is a language. It's based off of rhetorical traditions that come from Africa and the special context African Americans were placed in when they were brought over in slavery, and as that language evolved over time. I think the biggest reason to see it be discriminated against is because it's not white upper class middle English. And generally there is, I know this sounds controversial, but it can be demonstrated millions of times over and over in research. Generally there is a preference for white middle upper class language, so what we would call standard American English. The problem is that there tends not to really be a standard English, and so that's kind of a myth. But people go towards those certain types of languages, and they tend to denigrate the language of people who are different. And so you see, you know, I have to admit, when I was growing up north, we used to make fun of y'all, and then I was down here long enough one day that I just said y'all, and it scared me the first time I said it. You get different things, but yeah, African American vernacular English, I think it really just gets tethered to systemic racism, and it's something to discriminate against. So one of the other things I think people sometimes are not being discriminatory, but they can just be ignorant in the truest sense of the word, just not knowing, is that African American vernacular English is a rule-based system. So it does operate by rules. People think it's just broken English or bad grammar, but a lot of times there's the ways you use the absence of the copula to be verb. So something like, you know, we balling, you know, is acceptable in African American vernacular English. Now, I don't know all the linguistic terms on this, but there are other times where you can't drop the absence of the to be verb, and it's not acceptable, right? And that can also vary depending on the geographic location you're in. And so really what it is a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, that's just bad English. Well, it's just, no, it's just not the type of English you use, but within the communities it's used in, it's actually used in a rule-based form. Does that make sense?
That's really cool. I've never been involved in a conversation like that.
Yeah, you see it in all different types of languages and dialects and everything. So it's basically, some people argue it's a different language. A lot of people argue it's a different dialect. But even in the way we all use language, are most of you from Texas or mixers? Most of you are native Texans? Okay, so yeah, I mean, I know a lot of differences just in the way you use languages because I was born and raised in New Jersey, right? So probably right now you're all like, you talk too quick. I get that all the time down here. And I'm actually a normal paced talker where I grew up, oddly enough. You know, Texans don't like to cuss. If you take me outside of the context of my academic profession, I cuss like a sailor. That's just the way I was kind of raised. Everybody was dropping F-bombs nonstop, modifying it. So there's definitely different ways that all people use language, but if you look at the history, it's whatever the white upper middle class is speaking, that tends to become what the standard is. Now, you can also find some really fascinating things is that there is no real standard, and a lot of our rules are kind of arbitrary. So I think I did that with Kirsten and Krishan, but have you all heard of the rule, never end a sentence with a preposition? Some of you have, some of you haven't. Okay. Wow, that's really interesting. That's that dying out now. So at least in my day, going up through school, if you ended a sentence with a preposition, you would get like the red pen and how dare you,
Yeah.
this is the best thing you could ever do.
Where's the library at?
Yeah. So what's actually interesting is if you know the history of that, there is no grammatical reason that it's wrong. You can't end a sentence with a preposition in Latin, but English is a Germanic language. And so there's nothing in our grammar that says you can't do that. However, nobody's fully traced the history of this, but the best bet is it's a playwright named Johnson in the Renaissance who decided that we needed to be more formal and proper in our English. And so he took the Latin rule and applied it to English, and it stuck. And so to this day, people think it's a rule and they'll mark people down, and there's actually no grammatical reason for it whatsoever. You see that with a lot of stuff, and like with who and whom used to be a big deal. Now editors are kind of just letting it go and being like, okay, what's the big deal? Does anybody care? We can read past this. So language is never really a stable entity. It's always evolving, and that's what makes it kind of cool. And so a lot of times these rules that people try to hold everybody to are often quite arbitrary. There's actually, I'm probably rambling now, but this is actually interesting too. There was a research that was shown with Johnson and Van Brockel, I think it's from 2011. It was a really cool study that embedded different types of error, either types of errors that your typical standard American English speaker or white person would make, African American vernacular English errors, and ESL errors into a set of tests, and then circulated them to real reviewers in a Georgia State Regency exam. And what they found is there was, even though each paper only had 8 errors, they made sure to control for how many errors were in each paper. And control that each of the errors stood out, that they were something you should see. African American vernacular English got picked on way more than anybody else. So it really did show the history of that racism and how strong that can be. Whereas like they were reading right past the errors in the white papers, but they were like freaking out on those errors. So error is definitely kind of based on perception in many ways.
Wow. I remember what.
Come on.
That's crazy.
Time on in.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, but that is crazy.
Yeah. And again, it's not to say that there's no such thing as error, but a lot of it's more conventions that are based in certain discourse communities, right? So some of you are in the sciences, right? Don't use I. You never write I in anything, right? Yeah, I've been published writing I, right? Like you don't want to put it all over your paper, but in the humanities, it's not a big deal. But sometimes if you do something more scientific, we'll take the I out or kind of phrase it in the third person. So these conventions.
It's really inconvenient.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think the humanities, I'm going to be a little biased towards my own people. We finally just realized that the construction to get rid of I is so awkward that this is. So it's like the researcher who is writing this paper is like.
Yes. And then they're like, 53 milligrams were added to the solution. Like. And then you have to like figure out new verbs every single time to start your sentence with. I'm like,
that's the methodology sections you're probably referring to, and they can be a little difficult. This is another thing that's odd about. So you probably have all heard the don't write in passive voice. But if you do like engineering or biology, if you write a method section on a lab report, it's written in passive voice usually. And so that's something like another arbitrary rule that humanities people freak out and be like, you should never write in a passive. And I'm like, no, I do qualitative research. So if I write a methodology section when I'm getting published, it goes into the passive. And you just have to get kind of used to it. And that's kind of always an interesting flip that you're like, don't write, oh yeah, that's right, I'm supposed to be writing in passive here. Do you all know why you would do that with a methodology section? All right, so this is an interesting and fun fact too. So your typical active voice is subject, verb, object. It's the most common syntax in English. And it's basically the person doing the action, and what the action was done upon. The passive voice is used in methodology sections because it's more important the object being acted upon than who's doing the action. And so that's why you see it flip in those circumstances. Is why it flips a lot in engineering as well. Not always, but a lot of times in engineering, it's more important that you're playing with a socket than that Bob was the one that was doing the thing with the socket. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's the language adjusts because we need to know more about the objects being acted upon.
Wow, this is so cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It makes me really want to take like an advanced English class. Like the most English class I've taken is like Comp 1 and 2 and then research methods.
Yeah.
Fun, yeah.
This is the stuff that I learned about all semester. But it was really neat. Like, and I mentioned in one of our discussions that like you really don't realize how much like goes into a writing center until like you really take this class. Like, I have such a greater appreciation for it now because of all like the research and articles that we've read. Like, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a lot more complex than it looks like on the surface, right? And I think that's the biggest thing you realize too the first time you try to tutor. You know, you think it looks easy, like, oh, if I know stuff, I just tell people what I know, and then you try doing it, and you're like, oh, that's not working at all, right? Like, I need to be able to like work with these people and figure things out. So it's definitely fascinating. The administrative end is always interesting. I know makes me sound like a nerd, but you know, running them and figuring out what policies you want to have and how people work best, and the debates that you get a bunch of writing center directors together. We're getting a lot of nerdy debates. You know, how much did you deal with grammar? How much higher order concerns be involved? That specialist thing I was talking about earlier, that gets fought over like vehemently. So definitely there's a lot of choices that go into it. And it's pretty much with writing and writing instruction. One of the biggest things I love about it is you can never really master either. And that's kind of a neat thing. There's no like plateau moment where you're like, I know all of writing. That's it. It's done. You know, I can't be the Michael Jordan of writing at any point. There's always something to learn, no matter how good you are. And it's the same thing with the teaching and writing. You know, no matter how good you are, you're always going to be like, oh yeah, that's not working. I need to fix this in my class. And so it keeps you busy. It keeps you on your toes. It's kind of enjoyable that way.
That's
Personal
awesome.
growth.
Yeah.
Right now we're like having to make our own philosophies in writing. I was pretty nervous at the beginning of the semester looking at like the syllabus, but now that I feel like a lot more comfortable with like the different like theories and techniques, and this has actually been like my favorite paper to write for your class this semester. I think I feel like pretty confident in it, and it was
it's
fun too, like
right.
to really sit down and think about. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a cool
And
one.
I love like Peter Elbow's work. Like my philosophy like really uses his stuff.
Yeah.
Like you guys, I know you. If you want to see something interesting, you have to definitely read Peter Elbow's work. It's really easy to digest, and I learned a lot from it as far as like how to interact with students.
Yeah, Elbow is definitely one of my favorites. He was very much, he's an old man now, but he was very much from the era of the hippies. But he's very progressive in the way he wants to work with writers, and very open and interested in how we like evaluate writing and, you know, working with students. So the ranking, evaluating, liking one you guys all like, that is actually one of my favorite articles of all time, just because it plays with a lot of things with assessment and the way we evaluate writing that I think all teachers or anybody who works with writing really have to deal with at some point. You know, he's talking a lot about subjectivity of grading and how do we evaluate and how do we actually learn to, like, you know, enjoy writing and et cetera. So it's a really fun article that way.
Elbow is also a really fun last name.
Yes. So I
wanted to write a book called Macaroni.
Yeah. In graduate school, there were trivia groups that were made named like Peter's Elbow and everything in bars. So
nice.
There were a lot of fun. Yeah. So it was definitely a lot of fun with that name.
Awesome.
There was, I think one time I was going through TSA, and then the TSA agent, his last name, like on his tag, was Means, and I was like making light jokes because it was taking a while, and I was like, if I had your last name, I would have a kid and name it Any, and then they could write a book called Necessary, and it would be By Any Means Necessary. And he was like, I've never heard that one before. I was like, whoa, I'm completely original. I'm a god. Nobody can touch me.
Oh, Hannah.
That great brain of yours, Hannah. I love it.
All I have room for is puns and song lyrics.
I was listening to this podcast yesterday, and one of the guys on there, his name's Matt King, and his dad is like James King, and he was saying that one day, like his dad was like waiting in a hospital room, and the nurse lady comes out and was like, James, and two guys stand up, and like, oh, I need James Queen. So like in the waiting room, there was a James King and a James Queen, and they were like, what? So I thought that was pretty funny, and the guy goes
so
about her name thing. Yeah.
One of my closest friends when we were younger, he wound up not doing this with his daughter, but he always had this dream of naming his child a nickname and then nicknaming them a normal name.
Nice.
So he'd be like, his name is Ben, and he's like, yeah, so like I would name my kid Crazy, and then their nickname would be Ben. So that. But I also have a cousin. This one's strange. My grandfather, my uncle, and my cousin are all named after a army general who chased Pancho Villa, and it was like our great grandfather rode with him and loved him and everything like that. And it's his last name is their first name, and it's Funston. And so my grandfather was Funston, and he was always nicknamed Funny. My uncle was Brock. He went by his middle name, and we always called him Brock. And my cousin never uses the name Funston. It always is Brock. And so there was actually a major issue when he was in college because there was a check or something signed F. Brock Bowles. And then they were looking for Funston, and he's like, that's me. They're like, yeah, but you signed F. Brock Bowles. He's like, but I'm Funston. So it was definitely interesting. Like, there's this weird family name that, like, pretty much my grandfather was okay with, but none of the children were okay with.
Nice.
And for some reason, my uncle named his kid after him, even though he wasn't okay with it.
I think it's so crazy when people name their kids like in a chain, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Whenever
We
I
always
meet
had
people
that.
name like, whenever I meet people like name like days of the week or like seasons, like when I was growing up, there was these two sisters named Autumn and Summer.
Nice.
And yeah.
I think those are pretty names.
Were they born in the autumn or
It's
summer?
funny how it like coincides.
Was that like where they were born and they named after the season they were born in?
I have no idea. I don't think so, but their names definitely fit their personalities. They are a crazy bunch.
I know what Dallas and Austin.
My home
And
Dallas
that's
is
where they
still
were
like,
born.
and honestly, I think whenever. Actually, I do have a cousin named Austin, and he was born in, well, he was born in Round Rock, but that's close enough.
Yeah, but I think being named Round Rock.
Yeah, that would be a little more intense.
Pflugerville. Can you imagine going with that name? My name's Pflugerville.
I'm Round Rock. No, yeah. I got lucky with my last name, honestly. I really like my last name. I feel like when I get married, I'm probably gonna hyphenate at most. Cause my last name is Baratang. Like
this long, your name, you know?
yeah, it'd be like a whole meter. Like but yeah, it's battering when the T and the R switched.
Mine's the best. I can commit a crime and hide anywhere.
You know?
That's
Oh,
Smith who did it.
This is true.
You know this is being recorded, right? I love that he just raised his eyebrows. He was like,
My favorite moment though was when you said y'all, Dr. Bose, Jared was like, excuse me?
No, the best was when Jessica said it one day. She's like, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I'm like, we all heard it. We were right here.
the y'all?
It was,
What's wrong with
Y'all
y'all?
I have been in the South for a while. Prior to here, I was in Florida, and then prior to that, I was in North Carolina. So I've been in the South for about 10 years now. And I was teaching at Florida State. It was in the classroom one day, and I just said y'all, and I went like, oh no, I just did that. And then finally, I was just like, I'm just gonna lean into this. Like, that's it. Like, it's just so embedded in my mind now. I hear it too much. So
Well, I'm sure you'll agree with me because I used to live in North Carolina that say what you will about Texas accents, North Carolina is so much thicker.
See, I was in Charlotte though, so it's so metropolitan there and such a transplant city. You didn't get it as much, but I remember like you would drive out of Charlotte and go into the deep country, and that's when you got it. And like,
I was deep country, about 20 minutes out of Raleigh.
okay, I know where you are. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you definitely have the thick accent, man.
I've never heard like a thick Texas accent, or at least like I feel like I just don't know what it sounds like.
Come to Bowie, Texas with me for a day, and you will hear it everywhere. Like if I listen to my grandma, if I'm around my grandparents too much, like I start to pick up on it. And Christian, my husband, he's like, "Okay, Kirsten, it's coming in. You sound really hick." And I'm like, "Okay," I have to like take a step back. And I'm like, "Okay, all right, let me get the twang out of my voice real quick." Yeah, because especially my grandparents, they're very, very hick.
The first time I called you, she's like, "Oh, hello," and I'm like, "Hi." And then I thought I misspelled her name, and you're like,
Yeah, having the last name Martinez and being like one of the widest people out there is, I get funny reactions sometimes, especially when people meet me in person. They're like, "Oh, you're not Mexican." I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Actually, I had that reaction too. I heard the
That's
twang
so
and I was
funny.
like, not mentioned, but okay.
That's so funny.
We had a request by Mr. Jeremy Abshire wants Garrett Smith to create a cooking video. Garrett, it's been brought on. You have to do it now, man. He said grilled cheese. What is it with grilled cheese?
Maybe next week.
Oh, Jeremy's in this thing?
Yeah, Jeremy's here.
Okay, so I gotta ask, what does Campus Rec look like right now?
They have a Discord server.
Question. Yeah, so actually, while we were on this, I've been pacing around the living room, talking to Bree, thinking about what's the next step. So yeah, so we're not doing anything in person, right? So a lot of video games,
Cool.
lot of so we're doing some Netflix parties. We're doing we got a Marvel bracket that's like a March Madness bracket going on. We're doing internet content basically, so it's a lot of content creation from the students and a lot of figuring out how to interact. And I was trying to think, how are we going to reach more people, right? So we'll talk about this later in our meeting, Carla and Garrett, because just prepare yourselves. I've got some thoughts. But so you're on Discord. You mess with Discord, Dr. Bowles?
No, I'm not a Discord person, but one of my students, Kirsten, knows it in our class, is very into Discord.
Yeah, so get on it. It's like so for old people like us, I describe it as it's like a chat room on steroids.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. It has changed the way I've interacted with even my adult friends. So get on it and follow Discord, and like if you're follow Campus Rec's social media, right? We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, because we're posting daily what we're doing. This week's a little bit light. It's finals week, and since all of our stuff is student run, they're like, we're kind of busy this week because we had like a week where we didn't have classes, and then we had to do all those assignments, and now it's finals week. So we're a little bit light now, but we're not taking a break between now and the summer semester. So next week we'll hop right back on it with all of our activities going on. Biggest loss of the year, though, I think, is no faculty, staff versus students kickball. Right?
Yeah.
We had a really good.
We kicked your butt last year. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, we did. We were we're 2-0, and we had a little tradition going, right? So I don't know what that's going to look like when we come back. I doubt it'll be a summertime thing, maybe a fall thing, but yeah, it's the year that didn't happen, right? It's like the year MLB went on strike, or NHL.
Yeah. No, I remember, because it was our victory last year was really a little bit ironic in a way, because at the beginning of the game I asked about how we were going to approach the tag up rule, and so our umpire, Scott was our umpire, I think, right? Yeah, gave us a really long explanation, and then what did the students do? Didn't tag up properly. They didn't follow the instructions in the syllabus. And so I was just like, and so they got out and they like ruined an inning for themselves by not tagging up properly. It was like, we went over this.
Yeah, it's people who didn't grow up playing softball or t-ball, little league, they don't know what tagging up is. Like, what? So that's an easy one to forget. It's just like when the ball comes to you, what base to go to with the force rule. It's an easy one to forget if you didn't grow up playing.
Yeah, definitely.
But we had plans this year. I was gonna try to so we've been participating in intramurals with CTC, right?
Mhm.
So I was either gonna try to get their refs, or excuse me, their umps, their officials to come out and officiate the game this year, or I was gonna reach out to either like Baylor or UT or someone like that, a nearby college that has student officials, to see if I could pay them and get them to come out and have unbiased officials. We had growth plans, but next year.
We're gonna get the volleyball tournament then too when we get back.
Yeah, well, oh man, that's a hard question because we could play on the field, right? We could like grass courts, which is not ideal. The most expensive part with of volleyball courts, the sand, if you make a good one. And right now, budgets are all over the place. So as far as new facilities are concerned, that's probably getting pushed a ways back. So we could set up volleyball and do it on grass. We may still be able to work with CTC too, depending on what they're open to. Maybe hosting something at their facility, because so far they've been super open to us being able to do anything we want over there. Sorry, a real political non-answer.
No, yeah, that's good.
I really wanted to play volleyball this semester, but the practices at CTC were Tuesday nights, and before all this happened, I had a night class on Tuesdays. So I'm if we ever got to the point where we had a volleyball court, that'd be so fun.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
I'd be down for that.
You're talking about the Marvel movies too.
What's that?
You were talking about the Marvel movies. I've been going back and watching almost all of them with my son in little 20-minute spurts. He's 4, so he doesn't have the attention span like the whole movie, but we just watch a little 20-minute spurts throughout the day. So I've been running like most of the entire MCU all over again. So if you want to have any Marvel trivia, I'll probably be good.
Yeah,
I've been watching them in a sequence, how they happen during the Marvel universe.
Whenever he wants to watch it. Yeah, he does really. Joe, sometimes whoever his new favorite superhero is of the day. He has some consistencies. It's usually Hulk, but a recent viewing of Black Panther made it Black Panther for a while because he's a king. I love 4-year-old logic. He's like, he's a king. That's awesome. Therefore, he's the greatest superhero.
Hulk is really cool though. I like that Hulk is like this nerdy dude.
Yes.
But also like this giant ogre-looking guy.
Yeah, he matches part of your hair.
And my headset. You guys missed it. Well, you missed it, Jeremy. My entire hair was green, like a couple days ago, and then I was like, okay, I'm bored now, so I put blue on the top.
Very cool.
How many colors have you gone through this semester? It's been like what, at least 5?
I don't think I can count. So
you started out pink, and then you've been like every color in between. So.
There's like times where I'll do like a little thing, like I'll just add like a little bit of color to like something that's already fading, or like I'll straight up just dye my entire head. It depends. I don't know what all counts as changing my hair color anymore. I don't know what my standards are. Also, if you guys are wondering why I'm putting my hair over my eyelid, I don't know if you guys were here when I was talking about having a mosquito bite on my eyelid. Woke up like this.
Has anyone had to do the home haircut yet? It's getting there for me. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be weird. I'm gonna have short hair for the first time in years.
My husband has recut his hair.
I would straight up, like, if I were a boy, I'd just let it grow
My
out.
husband's is really, really long, and every day he asks me, like, when are you gonna cut my hair?
I got a buzzer.
I noticed a lot of mustaches going around. Is that like a quarantine thing?
A buzzer.
Like, look at Dr. Bowles, he has a mustache. Jeremy and, oh, well, Garrett's always had a mustache. So. How about
I
Krishan?
think it's
Krishan,
a
a mustache?
laziness thing. This is the first time I've worn like a collared shirt in like a month, I think. I just usually rock a t-shirt all day. I did start out quarantine. I was gonna do it like the NHL playoffs, and I was gonna grow in a quarantine beard. That thing got itchy, and so I quit. But yeah, my regular shaving patterns are very off now, so it's just kind of like, all right, I'm scruffy, I'll shave now, instead of like that. So, but yeah, the quarantine beard. Did you try that, Jeremy?
I can't grow a beard,
Oh, you can't grow a beard. Okay,
so like I don't think I've shaved in a week, and this is what I got going on.
fair enough. Fair enough.
So I decided let's grow a quarantine mustache, and I told people I was going to do it, and I regret that so much because I hate it.
Why did you do that if you don't like it?
Because it was a thing. I made it a thing. I got to stick to it.
Man of his
You
word.
just quit like I did with quarantine beard.
Yeah, no, I can't because I've tried to. It's a thing.
Are
It'll
you
go
campus
away
rec
soon
guys
enough.
growing their mustaches too, or is it just you?
Yeah, Mike shaved into a mustache. Well, Khalik, pretty much always has a mustache. I could not get Matt to shave his beard into a mustache, even though he said he would. And Mike has shaved his, and he looked like Apollo Creed. It was hilarious.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's funny. Can't wait to see everybody back on campus. All fuzzy and fluffy and
Long hair.
I
all
think we're
gone.
probably green before we come back.
I thought Anthony was growing facial hair too.
Is that what that was?
Oh, you got a little thing going on there. You
Just a
notice
little, just a little. It's interesting. My brother was trying to, my little brother, because he kind of looks like my little brother, and that's what I've always thought. Because
Well, Anthony fancies himself an Instagram model, so like he's got good lighting on all of our meetings. He's trying to get
This
real
is true.
manicured, he's trying to be a little cutie.
I can see that. But yeah, no, like my little brother, like he was trying to grow some hair too, but all he had was peach fuzz. And I was like, man, parallels, man.
Mm-hmm. Story of my life.
Oh my gosh.
So we're gonna do one
You
of
guys
those.
over here dying.
Huh?
I was gonna say with Jeremy, are we gonna do one of those distance or horse tournaments? I don't know if you were watching that when they had the NBA horse tournament.
No, what are you talking about?
What? It's like the
Yeah.
only sport we've had for months.
Well, okay, so UFC's having an event this weekend, right? Saturday's UFC.
Yeah, this is NBA. Like NBA was, they basically did a horse tournament using Zoom and stuff.
Oh, that's
Like, so
cool.
if your guys were at courts at their house, they would make a shot and show the shot, and then somebody across the country would have to make the shot. It was pretty awesome.
I like that. I've been getting all my sports from the Jordan documentary.
Oh, geez, The Last
That's
Dance.
Yeah, so reliving the glory days of my youth. There's a couple of cool things that we've talked about forever and never done that might be a good time to do it, right? So we've got all that land. I've been pushing for a pedestrian gate so that people can just go and easily access that land for about 2 years. And man, wouldn't that be a good thing to have now, right? So that when you have to go up to campus to do whatever you have to do business-wise, go take a hike. So I'm hoping soon we'll get to revisit that. And another thing that, like, I don't know if it's popular at other schools, but at least at Baylor, it's a thing where playing campus golf with a golf club and a tennis ball.
Interesting.
Oh, dude, it looks so much fun. And so that got as far as me playing golf in our office, but I can't get any. I don't ever want to do anything until I can get one of my student staff excited about it, right? Because then they can recruit. So until I can get somebody. And I asked the staff that I have now, I said, hey, guys, who's played golf before? And they just looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, pitch and putt? And they're like, putt. So I need somebody that's got a little bit of golf experience to get them excited. And I was like, look, literally what I'm asking you to do, your job is going to be to go outside with me and figure out a golf course on campus. So we're literally just going to spend hours of the day playing golf.
I used to play golf.
That sounds really cool. Just the only thing is I can easily imagine myself knocking the tennis ball like into a window.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about tennis balls. They bounce off.
Nice.
I
I
used to play
also
golf.
bought these golf balls that are called man, I can't remember what they're called, but they're foam, and you can take one and throw it as hard as you can at glass, and I've done that. Carlin's seen this. I probably shouldn't say that online, but I tested it at my home, definitely not at the office. You can just launch one at a window, and it just pops off. It doesn't break it.
Nice. So, Krishan, you were a golfer?
I was. I used to play like 5 years ago.
Nice. There you go. There's your person, Jim.
Campus golf.
So-
When we get back, we make a course, set it up, and we can do it. Golf courses are still operating. You know what I mean? They've got their social distance rules in place, and I see people there all the time.
So, Dr. Bowles, funny story. So, I had to get a little bit of an extension for the play-by-play because I got the other day wrong. But I actually was talking about it on our Blue Coat meeting yesterday morning, and I asked Krishan, I was like, what does he mean by, what is it, John Madden? And
Yeah.
I was like, did I miss a reading too? I was like, what is that? What does that mean? And Krishan was like, that's just a football player. And I was like, I was so scared. I was like, I missed something. Who's John Madden?
I really, it's one of those things you're pointing out to me now, the transition online, because I didn't mention what it was in class. I'm like, that probably didn't make sense to some people. So essentially, this little writing assignment they had was asking them to go over one of the tutoring sessions they had in their internship, and I put go John Madden on it. And he's basically a color commentator that like draws all over the screen and does a play-by-play. And so, yeah, I just realized that probably went over a few people's heads.
It was me. I asked Krishan, I was like, what does he mean? I don't know.
Well, I gotta watch that John Madden reference. Might get old eventually. He called all the games when I was growing up.
Isn't that a video game too, though? The John Madden?
Yes. Madden football is a video game, so probably he'll never go out of the public consciousness completely. But Jeremy, I think you're old enough to remember the days when he actually called the games, right?
Of course. I also remember his Tenactin commercials. That's why I put in the chat.
Oh, that's good. Tough act, it's an acting, yeah. So sometimes he would like draw all over the screen to diagram a football play, and the whole thing would just be scribbled by the end. He was a really funny character. It was a cool guy.
Guys, this was fun. I gotta hop out of here. Get ready for my 11 o'clock meeting.
Bye, Jeremy.
See y'all next time.
Take care. Bye.
So while we're wrapping up, Miss Jacqueline is here. It'd be really cool to have her announce the winner of the bookstore contest.
Hey there. We
Hello.
actually, hey, we had two wonderful ladies that are our winners today. And Amy Taggart, y'all may know her. She's upstairs here in Founders Hall. And Kinetta Guns. Both are getting a TAMU CT hoodie. Yay!
Yay!
Very exciting, very exciting. So I'm going to try to figure out something fun for us to post tomorrow. We got a few more things that I can give away, and so everybody loves free stuff. So I'll share that on Facebook tomorrow.
Awesome.
Ooh.
And faculty can participate, Dr. Bowles, so you can get free goodies too.
Free goodies, all right, awesome.
Yep. We share all our stuff through our social media, so we'll share your stuff, Jackie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, also one thing, because you may hear something from students and y'all are way more plugged into all of the social media things. I got approval for Thursday and Friday for the bookstore to be open to take back rentals here in store. We do provide that free rental return label online. Students are dropping those off. I'm getting flooded with those rental returns right now, which is wonderful. But we did have some students that were just really wanting to bring them in. They didn't want to try to venture out to the UPS store. I guess they think I have less germs than, they can get out, among the masses. So I'll have the doors kind of blocked, but I will take in rentals that way. So if you see anybody saying, hey, have you heard about textbook rentals at the bookstore? Just direct them towards me. It's posted on Facebook. It's posted on the university's COVID site, everything but smoke signals, so we can get the word out.
Kanetta asked a question in the chat.
Ooh.
She said, are students able to sell their books back as well?
I am going to try to do that. As of right now, we're going to say yes. It is going to be me here. And so I provided it doesn't get too overwhelming with all of the books back and forth, I definitely will buy back what I can, because we need some books back. There are some very special books that our friends in the English and the history department like to use that we definitely want to buy back. I've got a few business books out there. I'm crossing my fingers I get those back as well.
Awesome. Awesome.
Sweet. Oh, also, Amanda, would you like to talk about you and Daviana's campaign and the results and the future?
So yes, it turned out the way we wanted it. Daviana Phillips is the new student body president, and I am alongside her as her vice president. Yeah, so we're really excited. Yeah, we're just excited for the future. A little bit anxious, just we want to do our best, and not make people upset, but because people, you can't please everyone. But yeah, we're super excited.
Whoop, whoop. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats. There's a lot of good stuff coming this new year. So, well, thank you everybody for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Dr. Bowles, it's been a pleasure. I miss your classes, so. If anyone else has anything they'd like to share before we go?
I was just going to say thank you for the socialization help, because this is the most human beings I've interacted with at once in a very long time. I think four for our program meetings is about as most people I've engaged with at one time. So it's definitely nice to have wow, there's 8 people I can talk to. This is really fascinating.
You are more than welcome to join us. We're on every Tuesday from 10 to 11, and we'd like to invite different guests. So Jessica and CPD is a frequent guest, and yeah, you're welcome to come by. Just stop by and visit. Also, we have a YouTube channel with a bunch of old recordings too. So if you want to go check those out. So
and next week is pets, right?
Yes. Oh no, the end of the last week in May is pets.
Oh, okay.
So if you have any pets, I encourage you to bring them and show them off. And yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. So I think next week is Dr. Dieter and Dr. Shane from sociology. So that's gonna be fun too.
The discourse.
Yeah, Career and Professional Development extended the deadline for the guidebook cover contest to this Friday, end of business 5 p.m. So if you had some ideas last week and you didn't get a chance to put them together and submit them for a chance to win and have your design published on the cover of the guidebook and a $100 Amazon card, there is still time. We're still accepting submissions until this Friday at 5.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a super wonderful week, and we will see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.